Claire ripped Evelyn's reservation in half, her voice laced with quiet contempt. "You're not welcome here," she said, holding up the torn printout like it was evidence of a crime. Evelyn Harper stood still, her gold evening gown catching the soft glow of the chandeliers in Etoile's private dining room, a room she technically owned, though no one here seemed to know that yet. Behind her, a man in a gray Armani suit pushed past, knocking her Louis Vuitton handbag off the table she'd been escorted to moments ago. "My seat," he barked, barely glancing her way as he sank into the leather chair she'd chosen. Evelyn took a breath. Steady. Calm. She bent down, retrieved her bag, and slowly placed it on the edge of the table again. Her voice was measured. "This table was reserved in my name. Claire, head server, and clearly relishing the authority she thought she had, narrowed her eyes. Your QR code is counterfeit. Scan your ID, publicly, around them." Guests glanced over menus and wine glasses, pretending not to watch. But they were watching. The room, a swirl of crisp white linens and murmured luxury, had turned cold. A few tables over, Natalie Brooks lifted her phone and tapped a quiet message. Evelyn caught the movement with the edge of her vision and gave the faintest nod. Claire had no idea she had just kicked a match into gasoline. In 2000, Evelyn was 25 and standing in the lobby of a Chicago investor's office. Her business plan had been airtight, innovative, scalable, and fully backed by her own culinary track record. Still, the board had laughed, literally. "We don't think our patrons are ready for someone like you at the helm." They'd said, "Your concept might do better. Somewhere else." Somewhere else had become everywhere by 35. Evelyn had quietly acquired a controlling interest in Etoile through shell entities and silent partnerships, eventually consolidating full ownership under Harper Gourmet Group. Not a soul on this staff knew who she really was. That was by design. Tonight, though, the curtain was starting to lift. Claire pressed a button on the dining room intercom. "Apologies, guests. We're experiencing a delay due to a fraudulent reservation." Evelyn remained composed. William Pierce Preston, the man now occupying her seat, glanced at his phone and held up a printed email. "Platinum status," he said smugly. "I'm entitled to this table." The email, obviously forged, bore mismatched fonts and an outdated logo. Claire didn't care. "That's all we needed," she said, locking eyes with Evelyn. "You're out of place." Evelyn's response was simple. "Verify my booking, Claire, or you're done." Claire smiled, mocking. "Is that a threat?" From her nearby table, Natalie Brooks whispered into her mic. "Override sequence queued. Standing by." Evelyn didn't blink. "Stand by, Natalie." The words were quiet, steady. Across the room, Sophia Bennett adjusted her seating position. To anyone watching, she was just another elegant woman enjoying dinner. But she was Evelyn's embedded liaison, an executive with full discretion to act on her behalf. "Logging a misconduct report," she murmured. Evelyn responded without turning. "Send it to the board." Just as she spoke, another woman stood near the back of the room, Olivia Hayes, a well-known influencer with nearly 3 million followers, lifted her phone and began live streaming. "They're targeting a black woman at Etoile," she said clearly. Her followers surged in real time. Claire didn't notice. William did, but he smirked. "She doesn't belong in this room," he said. "Loud enough to carry," Sophia snapped. "You're crossing a line." "Sir," Evelyn turned, calm and deliberate. "You'll fall, William, and it'll be faster than you think." Evelyn tapped the face of her smartwatch, a gesture no one would understand unless they were watching for it. It sent a ping to Sophia, who immediately drafted an email to Harper Gourmet's executive board, summarizing the violation in progress. Scent, she mouthed. William, oblivious to the growing storm, reached under the napkin near Evelyn's plate and slid something toward her, a small folded note. She opened it silently. The words read, "Wrong room." Olivia caught the moment on her stream. Viewers erupted. Evelyn set the note down, folded her hands, and looked at Claire. "You're torching Étoile," she said with a clarity that sliced the air. "If you've ever walked into a room and been told, without saying a word, that you didn't belong, this story is for you. If you've ever had your dignity questioned before you even sat down, or had a stranger decide your worth before you said your name, stay with us. Share your voice in the comments. Speak truth to moments like this. And subscribe if you believe justice needs a witness. Because in this room, that's exactly what Evelyn is about to become. Claire's venom sparked a media blaze in Étoile's dining room. Claire's voice cracked over the intercom again, but this time it was louder, bolder, almost theatrical. "Management has been alerted. This guest's reservation has been flagged as unverifiable." Around the room, heads turned. The illusion of privacy in the private dining space had vanished. People were no longer pretending to ignore what was happening. They were openly watching. Evelyn stood motionless, her hands folded at her waist. But the storm behind her eyes had only just begun. Claire gestured sharply to a waiter hovering near the door. "Bring in Mr. Reynolds," she ordered. A moment later, Michael Reynolds, Étoile's manager, entered the room, tall, stiff, and visibly uncomfortable. He tried to sound firm. "We've had an issue with the reservation system," he began. Claire cut him off. "She doesn't have a reservation. Michael." "She's holding us up." Michael hesitated, eyes darting between Claire and Evelyn. "Ms." he began. But Claire snapped. "She rejected my Harper Gourmet internship last year, and now she thinks she can waltz in and take this table like she owns the place." Evelyn said nothing, but Olivia, filming from across the room, caught every word. "Let's get this straight," she said to her phone, her voice crisp and deliberate. "The head server just admitted revenge is her motive. This is bias in real time." Thousands of viewers lit up her stream in seconds. The count began doubling, tripling, near the back. Ryan Carter was seated at the reservation terminal, a system he had internal access to. No hacking needed. With a few silent taps, he altered Evelyn's profile status from verified to guest unknown, triggering an internal flag. At Claire's signal, he clicked confirm. An alert appeared on the screen in the dining room's central panel. Elite guest override activated. Suddenly, the table Evelyn had been assigned flashed red in the reservation overlay, without a word. A waiter approached and carefully lifted Evelyn's silverware, placing it into a locked glass case. "This setting is reserved for elite patrons only," he said awkwardly. Avoiding eye contact, Claire smirked. "We reserve those utensils for real guests." A murmur rolled through the room. Cameras were out. Olivia zoomed in on the display screen. "They're locking up her flatware," she whispered into the mic. "This is outrageous." One guest turned to another. "Is this real?" a man whispered. "They're saying she faked her reservation?" Across the table, William leaned back with the smugness of someone who thought the world owed him space. "You know how this goes," he said softly to no one in particular. "Some folks just don't know their lane." In 2005, Evelyn had flown to Los Angeles to propose a joint venture with a legacy culinary group. She'd arrived early, portfolio in hand, and waited nearly an hour before someone told her they'd forgotten to confirm. A week later, they announced a partnership with a white male chef whose concept was almost identical to hers. That rejection had hardened something in her. By 2015, 10 years later, She'd funneled her success into securing full control of Étoile, not on paper, not with pomp, quietly, thoroughly, and tonight, in this very room. They were about to find out. Back in the dining room, Sophia Bennett typed furiously on her tablet. "False reservation flag," she whispered. "Documenting everything." Evelyn nodded once. "File it." Claire walked by again, glancing at Olivia's camera. "You're violating house policy," she snapped. "No filming without consent." Olivia didn't flinch. "Public interest trumps policy," she replied. "And you just locked up a black woman's utensils because you didn't like her name on the list." Michael approached Evelyn. "Ma'am, we're doing everything we can to sort this out," Evelyn replied calmly. "Are you?" Claire barked. "She's lying. That reservation is fake." Olivia turned the camera slightly. "Say that again?" she asked. Claire froze, then stormed toward the kitchen. Natalie, from her table, tapped a command on her secure tablet. She leaned in toward Evelyn. "Override's almost ready. We just need your biometric confirmation." Evelyn looked straight ahead. "Wait for my signal." Across the room, William scoffed. "You're still here?" he asked. "How many warnings do you need?" Evelyn turned slowly. "Enough to make this a teachable moment. For you. And everyone watching." Sophia added, "Board's monitoring the stream now." The tension reached a fever pitch when a live CNN alert flashed across the dining room monitor. The Chiron read, "Breaking, discrimination incident at Michelin star Étoile goes viral." Gasps echoed across the space. Claire, returning from the kitchen, looked up just in time to see her own face on the screen in a still frame from Olivia's feed. Her smirk, caught in the moment she dismissed Evelyn's code, was now on every screen in the room. "That's not what happened," she said, her voice faltering. Michael, clearly panicked, stepped forward. "Guests, we ask for your patience." Claire tried to shift the spotlight. She reached under the table and snatched Evelyn's handbag, walking it to the hostess stand. "This was left unattended," she declared. "We'll keep it safe." Olivia zoomed in. "She just took her bag." A dozen phones came up. Patrons were now not just witnesses. They were journalists. Evelyn's voice was low, but firm. "You're exposing Étoile's rot. Claire, every second you speak, you widen the crack." Claire laughed dryly. "You think this live stream scares me? This is my floor." William chuckled. "She'll be escorted out soon enough." But Evelyn wasn't laughing. She leaned toward Natalie and said, "Prep every log. The reckoning begins now." Natalie tapped a final sequence into her override panel, eyes scanning the screen. "Two-factor auth verified, but we need one more biometric trigger." Olivia's voice trembled with excitement. "Y'all, this just made the New York Times. The article just dropped. Title, Disgraced at Dinner, a black woman's fight in Manhattan's most exclusive restaurant." Claire froze. Her knees didn't buckle, but her face did. Sophia raised her tablet. "The board's asking for an internal report." "Now," Michael whispered. "Claire, this is out of control," Claire muttered. "She's faking all of this. She's not who she says she is." But Evelyn remained still, composed. Her voice cut through the air like glass. "You can call me whatever you like, Claire, but in 10 minutes, your career ends in this room. You just haven't realized it yet." Claire's lies fueled a media storm in Étoile's dining room. Claire's heel snapped against the polished marble as she returned to Evelyn's table with a silver dish in hand, her smile thin, weaponized. "Caviar amuse-bouche," she announced sweetly, then leaned forward and tipped the dish just enough to spill its creamy contents across Evelyn's gown. The rich, Oil-laced sauce splashed down the front of the golden fabric, leaving an unmistakable stain. A collective gasp moved through the room. Claire didn't flinch. "Oh," she said flatly. "How unfortunate." She dropped the empty silver spoon onto the tablecloth with a clatter that made Olivia's camera jerk in her grip. Evelyn remained seated, regal despite the insult, her hands still in her lap. Michael rushed toward the table, his face white. "I'm sorry, Miss Harper, but you'll need to leave immediately," he said, barely glancing at the mess Claire had caused. William, now clearly emboldened, leaned forward from Evelyn's stolen seat and lifted his left wrist. "Here's how this works," he said, waving his arm in slow motion. "This is a $15,000 Rolex, which means I can sit where I want. When I want." He smiled directly at Olivia's camera. "Tell your viewers money talks." Claire clapped once. "Finally, some class in the room." The dining room buzzed with whispered commentary and the soft glow of recording phones. Ryan, still at the reservation terminal, tapped again. Evelyn's profile updated in real time. Trespasser, flagged by management, on the central dining screen. Her name turned red, accompanied by a small icon of a lock. In 2003, Evelyn had traveled to New York to attend a prestigious culinary festival as a featured guest. When she arrived, she was told her spot had been reassigned. No explanation. She later discovered her slot was given to the cousin of a hotel investor. Someone with half her credentials and none of her experience. She hadn't caused a scene then. She'd gone home, built something better, and vowed that one day. The gatekeepers would have to answer for every door they slammed in her face. By 2013, 10 years later, she had quietly signed the final contract that made her the undisputed sole owner of Étoile. Every tile on the floor, every plate on the table, every policy in their handbook, hers now. As William waved his watch and Claire dumped insults with the same precision she once served soufflés, Evelyn reached into her clutch and handed a slim security keycard to Natalie, who was seated 2 tables away, still posing as a guest. "Activate my credentials," Evelyn said, voice low, almost clinical. Natalie rose without a word and moved toward the corner of the room where a discreet staff access panel was embedded in the wall. Claire noticed the movement and stiffened. "Hey!" she snapped. "What are you doing back there?" Sophia stepped in before Claire could intercept. "She's with me. We're updating our reservation." She lied smoothly. Claire, distracted by the cameras, backed off. Evelyn turned her head just slightly and said, "Sophia, is William's little Rolex moment captured?" Sophia nodded, already uploading the clip to the board's internal drive. "Claire's spill, too," she added. Claire returned to Evelyn's side. "Ready to admit you faked that reservation yet?" she asked. William laughed. "She's still playing rich, even covered in fish eggs." Evelyn met his eyes. "You're both done. You just don't know how thoroughly—" Olivia, still filming, whispered, "My chat's going off. Over 500,000 viewers. We're trending in Germany." Natalie returned, pausing behind Evelyn with a quiet nod. "Override is live," she said. "Just loud enough." Waiting for the launch command, Michael stepped forward, hands raised. "Let's not escalate this," he said nervously. "I think we can find a different table for Ms." "No," Evelyn interrupted. "I don't want a different table. I want accountability." Claire gestured to security. "We're done waiting. Get her out." But before anyone could move, Sophia spoke. "Not so fast." She turned her tablet toward Michael, showing a transaction log. "You took a $5,000 tip from William earlier this evening. Care to explain?" Michael blinked. "That's not what it looks like." Olivia turned the camera. "It's exactly what it looks like." Evelyn stood slowly, the stained front of her gown glistening under the lights. So, this wasn't just bias. It was purchased bias. William turned red. Don't twist this. I offered a tip to. Evict someone who outranked you. Sophia finished. Across the dining room, the central display changed again. A breaking banner read, New York Times update, Etoile manager accused of taking bribe. The photo accompanying it was a still from Olivia's feed, showing Michael pocketing the cash envelope behind the bar. Claire, clearly panicking now, stepped back from Evelyn's table. I didn't know anything about that, she said quickly. I just thought. You thought you could humiliate me. Evelyn interrupted. You thought you'd get away with it because you've done it before, but you never did it on camera. You never did it in front of the world. Claire's mouth tightened. You're making a mistake. Evelyn stepped forward. I don't make mistakes. I make decisions. She turned slightly, addressing Natalie. Initiate the board notification. Natalie tapped the command. In the corner of the dining room, an unobtrusive staff screen lit up with the Harper Gourmet logo and a flashing message. Board alert, owner override initiated. Patrons began to whisper louder. Some applauded quietly. One elderly couple stood, raising their wine glasses. William looked ready to implode. You're bluffing, he said. You're nothing but a guest. Evelyn turned to him, her voice calm and surgical. I'm Evelyn Harper. I own Etoile. William took a step back. Claire blinked as if slapped. Michael stumbled into a chair. Olivia grinned. Let me say that again for the live stream. She owns the restaurant. Sophia raised her glass slightly. And the board has just confirmed her authority to take disciplinary action on site. Claire's voice broke. You can't do this. Evelyn walked to the hostess stand where Claire had placed her handbag. She picked it up, opened it, and retrieved a slim leather portfolio. From it, she pulled a laminated certificate bearing the Harper Gourmet Group seal and a notarized document of full ownership dated 3 years prior. She laid it on the front counter. Then, without raising her voice, she turned toward the room. Claire Donovan, you're fired. Ryan Carter, you're terminated. William Preston, you're permanently banned from all Harper Gourmet properties. Claire opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Ryan stepped forward. You have no right. Sophia cut him off. Actually, she has every right, and the board agrees. Olivia's stream exploded with comments. Etoile Justice began trending on screen. Evelyn wasn't finished. She tapped her tablet once, bringing up another file. These aren't first offenses. Claire's had 9 documented bias complaints in the past 18 months. Buried by Ryan's admin access, we found the logs. The dining room became Etoile's media-charged inferno. The dining room's buzz of whispers turned into a low thrum of tension as Claire stormed back toward Evelyn, her breath shallow, cheeks flushed. You think you've won? She hissed. You're just some investor playing queen? Evelyn didn't answer. She didn't have to. Her eyes, steady, unblinking, held all the authority the moment demanded. But Claire wasn't done. With one swift, impulsive motion, she reached for Evelyn's phone resting on the table beside her half-finished mineral water and smashed its screen down against the marble edge. A sickening crack filled the space. Disruptive electronics, Claire muttered, already trying to twist her narrative. Patrons gasped. Several diners stood. What is she doing? Someone asked. Olivia's stream jolted as she captured the entire moment, her voice tense. She just destroyed her phone. Right in front of us. The fallout was immediate. Guests who had once watched passively now murmured openly. That's assault, said a woman seated near the fireplace. William tried to raise his voice, but the audio from CNN's live broadcast blared across the wall-mounted screen behind the wine cellar, breaking, Etoile's owner harassed and physically targeted on sight. Claire took a step back, as if finally realizing how deeply she had crossed the line. But it was too late. Ryan Carter, watching from the reservation terminal, panicked. He quickly typed a few keystrokes into the internal system and hit enter, freezing Evelyn's login credentials with a backdated access freeze, a move that didn't require hacking, just unethical internal clearance. His screen flashed red. Override block initiated. Owner credentials suspended, pending verification. Claire, oblivious to the full scope of what Ryan had just done, smirked and called out, "Looks like your fancy override just hit a wall." Evelyn didn't move. She reached slowly into her handbag and retrieved a thin black USB drive. Sleek, unbranded, and unmistakably custom. She inserted it into the staff tablet near the podium, then entered a sequence manually. A few seconds passed. The tablet's screen blinked to life, showing a hidden dashboard labeled Harper Gourmet Internal Override. Her photo appeared in the upper corner, along with her credentials, the moment her identity confirmed. The reservation board above the room shifted. Evelyn's name, now shown as Evelyn Harper, sole proprietor, glowed in crisp white font. The room went silent. Even Claire froze. Michael, still at Evelyn's side, stammered, This has to be a mistake. That system isn't accessible to field staff." Sophia stepped forward, her tone clipped and composed. "That's because it's not for field staff. It's for ownership." William, caught in the narrowing spotlight, barked, "She's faking this. That can't be real." But Sophia simply turned her own tablet around and showed him the live internal message from Harper Gourmet's board. All executive authority confirmed. Full disciplinary powers granted. Do not obstruct. Olivia's camera captured the exact moment Claire's knees buckled slightly. She gripped the back of a nearby chair, trying to steady herself. Natalie, quietly working in the background, leaned in toward Evelyn. "They're trapped. Every stream is now live. You're in control." Evelyn nodded once. "Issue my orders." Natalie tapped a sequence that sent a message to Harper Gourmet's central database. At that moment, the dining room's guest monitors switched again, this time showing the Eater homepage, where a headline in bold read, "Bias at Etoile, owner targeted by her own staff in viral scandal." The image featured Evelyn's stained gown, Claire's sneer, and William's smug Rolex flash. In 2007, Evelyn had flown to Boston for a final round pitch with a well-known culinary investor group. They'd greeted her warmly, smiled through her entire presentation, and then, in the last 5 minutes, one of the senior partners leaned in and said, "You're incredibly sharp, Ms. Harper, but I don't think Boston's ready for your kind of cuisine, or your kind of leadership." That flight home had been quiet, but she remembered sitting by the window and making herself a promise. She would never again wait for someone else to allow her in. She would buy the room, and everything in it. Etoile had been that room. Tonight, she would remind them who built the ceiling they tried to trap her beneath. Evelyn straightened, the caviar stain still vivid but now symbolic. "Claire Donovan," she said, voice cold, deliberate. "You've assaulted me, defamed me, falsified records, and used the reservation system as a weapon. Confess now, or I'll add obstruction and cyber tampering to your exit file." Claire scoffed, still clinging to the illusion of power. "You're bluffing. You're nothing but a spoiled face on a corporate logo." Evelyn gave a half smile. "That's your last line of defense? Denial?" She turned slightly. "Natalie, signal the board." Natalie clicked a final confirmation and sent a direct alert to Harper Gourmet's executive monitoring room. Across the staff tablet, a secure directive populated the screen. Proceed with full termination protocol. Internal authority unlocked. Sophia leaned toward Michael and held out her screen. "Read it," she said. Michael's jaw dropped. She really owns everything?" Sophia nodded. "Every inch." But the final blow came just seconds later. Natalie's screen pinged again. "Ryan just tried to overwrite Evelyn's entire profile with a false ID string," she whispered. "He attempted to reroute her credentials to a guest account named Evelyn Harper. Spelling error gave him away." Evelyn nodded calmly. "Thank you. Document it." Sophia's fingers flew over her tablet. "I've logged it with the board and attached the attempt to his exit record." Claire, watching everything crumble, whispered, "No, this isn't how it was supposed to go." Evelyn didn't look at her. She just said, "This is exactly how it was supposed to go. You just never imagined you'd be on the receiving end." Olivia, whose stream had just crossed 2 million live viewers, stepped closer and whispered, "CNN just picked up the full override footage." Evelyn exhaled, measured and grounded. "Then we're only getting started." The dining room braced for Evelyn's hammer. The moment was still, for a full heartbeat. No one moved. Then Evelyn Harper stepped forward, slowly, deliberately, toward the center of the dining room. Her heels clicked with precision, her caviar-stained gown trailing like a banner of both dignity and defiance. She stopped in front of Claire, Ryan, and William, her posture impeccable, voice clear. "Claire Donovan, Ryan Carter, and William Preston," she said, scanning each face one by one. "You've turned this room into a spectacle of entitlement, deception, and hate. That ends now." Claire opened her mouth, her voice rising in panic. "You're not management. You can't." Evelyn cut her off without raising her voice. "I'm not management. I'm ownership." Silence fell again. Even the background clinking of cutlery had ceased. Ryan tried to laugh. "There's no way you—" "I am Evelyn Harper," she continued, her tone sharpened like glass. "Founder and CEO of Harper Gourmet Group, sole owner of Étoile. Every paycheck you've received, it has my signature behind it. Every dish on this menu, every reservation made, every policy enforced, my authority." The room erupted, not in applause, but in stunned awe. Some gasped, others whispered, a few stood, unsure whether to retreat or bear witness. Olivia, still streaming, brought her phone closer. "Y'all, she just revealed she owns everything. Claire's face looks like someone cut the lights in her brain." Claire stumbled backward a step, face pale. "You can't fire me like this," she muttered. "I've worked here for 4 years." Evelyn nodded. 4 years too long." She turned toward Natalie, who was already standing at the staff terminal. "Log terminations for Claire Donovan and Ryan Carter. Effective immediately. Termination cause, bias-fueled misconduct, abuse of internal systems, willful obstruction of ownership authority." Natalie's fingers moved fast. Claire turned to Michael, eyes pleading. "You can stop this, right? You're the manager." Michael didn't respond. Sophia was already at his side, showing him a directive from the Harper Gourmet Executive Board. "All final decisions rest with Evelyn Harper. Internal compliance required." Ryan stepped forward, desperate now. "You don't understand. This whole thing was Claire's idea. Evelyn turned to him. "You just rewrote my profile and flagged me as a trespasser using internal clearance. That's obstruction. Mr. Carter. And you did it on camera." Ryan froze. "I didn't mean. Intent doesn't change the consequence," she replied coldly. William, watching his allies fall apart, reached into his jacket and pulled out a thick money clip. "All right," he said with a theatrical sigh. "Everyone has a price. What if I gave each of these patrons here $1,000 to stop recording? You get your little story, we get our table back, and the internet forgets about this by morning. His voice carried, smug, slick with confidence that had always bought him control. Olivia's camera zoomed in as he waved the bills like a game show host. Let's not overplay this, darling, he added toward Evelyn. We're all reasonable people here. Evelyn stepped closer until they were nearly eye to eye. You're right about one thing, she said, her voice calm. Everyone does have a price. Yours is exactly the price of your arrogance. She turned slightly, nodding to Natalie. Blacklist William Preston from every Harper Gourmet property, effective immediately, Claire hissed. He's an investor. Evelyn turned back to her, eyes sharp. He was an investor. She looked to Sophia. Sell his equity back to the fund, below market, file the report under coercion, misconduct, and attempted media bribery. Sophia's expression didn't change. Already in motion. Claire's voice cracked. You're ruining people's lives over a misunderstanding. Evelyn didn't blink. You assaulted my dignity. You vandalized my reservation. You destroyed my property, falsified my records, and fed your resentment like it was your job. It ends here. Her fingers tapped a few commands into the staff screen. A video log populated on the central dining monitor. Grainy black and white security footage from prior dates. The caption read, Internal Incident Review, Claire Donovan. The screen shifted. A montage of 9 separate clips played, in each. Claire could be seen treating black or brown patrons with subtle hostility. Seating delays, quiet refusals, sneering facial expressions. Missing reservations, or sending lower-tier wine unprompted. Some clips were more damning, a muttered slur caught under breath. An eye roll after verifying ID, a deliberate failure to acknowledge a woman's dietary needs. Ryan's name was flagged on each report as the reviewing party, in every case. He had marked the complaint as unsubstantiated, closed. A collective breath seemed to leave the room. Even patrons who had remained quiet began murmuring in outrage. Olivia's stream comments exploded. How long has this gone on? She's been targeting people like Evelyn for years. Fire them all. Evelyn waited for the final clip to end before turning to Claire. You didn't just sabotage me tonight. You sabotaged Etoile's soul. But I'm reclaiming it, right here, right now. Claire's legs buckled. She sat down, stunned. Ryan looked lost. William stood in open disbelief, slowly lowering the bills in his hand. Now meaningless. Sophia spoke gently. The board has requested a full staff overhaul by morning. They've also approved public disclosure of all internal footage as part of our transparency initiative. Olivia's camera captured Claire burying her face in her hands. Evelyn turned to the diners, her voice carrying without shouting. To all our guests here tonight, I apologize for what you witnessed, but sometimes truth must be uncomfortable to become visible. Etoile will no longer be a stage for bias. Just then, Sophia received a ping. Evelyn, she said, CNN just confirmed you'll be live on their morning broadcast. Evelyn nodded. Then we begin rebuilding, with light, not silence. Claire's voice cracked one last time. You'll regret this. Evelyn didn't look at her. She simply whispered. I already regret trusting that silence would change anything. With Etoile reclaimed, Evelyn forged a future. The fallout began before Evelyn even left the room, with Claire and Ryan dismissed, and William publicly banned. The remaining staff stood frozen, waiting for a cue, but Evelyn gave no grand speech. She didn't need to. The authority in her silence was louder than any declaration. She moved to the service console at the side of the room, tapped into the Harper Gourmet owner panel, and opened a module labeled Operational integrity protocols. From there, she initiated 2 commands. First, she scheduled mandatory anti-bias training for every remaining staff member within 72 hours. Second, she submitted a directive for a full hiring audit, emphasizing diverse recruitment and equitable promotion standards. "This is what fairness looks like," she murmured, more to herself than anyone else. Natalie watched the commands process across the system, then turned to her. Etoile's heartbeat just changed. Olivia was still filming, her voice now steady with reverence. "This is no longer just a scandal, it's a transformation." Sophia, now acting as Evelyn's formal spokesperson, added quietly, "The board is backing every step. This isn't damage control. This is structural change." Guests began to clap. Not the polite kind offered after a souffle or a toast, but the kind that came from deep in the chest, rooted in relief. One elderly man raised his wine glass toward Evelyn. "To your courage," he said. Others followed. Olivia's comments section surged with praise, solidarity, and awe. On the screens above the dining room, CNN began running a lower third banner. Etoile owner initiates live reform following viral bias scandal. Evelyn took it in with a stillness that felt earned. Her empire wasn't built on noise, it was built on precision. And that precision wasn't finished yet. In the back corner of the room, Natalie's tablet beeped. "Something's wrong," she said, pulling up the alert. Sophia came over, her brow furrowed. "It's Ryan's access log," Natalie whispered. "He tried to delete Evelyn's original reservation record, not just flag it, wipe it." Evelyn's jaw tightened. "When?" Natalie scrolled. "Just now. Seconds before he was terminated. He used a backdoor entry point from a previous admin protocol. It's an older tool from before the last update, hidden in an unarchived section." Sophia immediately launched a secondary check. "He embedded a falsified user identity. Evelyn Harper. He tried to reroute the system to replace your real identity with a decoy version. That's how he triggered the override block earlier. Not sabotage through hacking, just corruption through access." Evelyn nodded slowly, her voice level. "Log every step of it. Forward the trail to the internal review team. And inform legal." Natalie tapped once more. "Done." Then Evelyn did something no one expected. She opened a new module, one not visible to the public, not part of any typical reservation interface. It was called Table Guard, a proprietary AI-backed tool designed to detect patterns of service bias, customer flagging, and manipulation of internal tags. Evelyn had quietly developed it with her tech division, but until now, had never activated it outside beta. Tonight, she did. With a single confirmation input, Table Guard went live. A ripple of soft mechanical alerts pinged across the restaurant's internal systems. Color-coded icons appeared beside every employee's profile. Green for clean, orange for needing review, red for urgent action. Claire and Ryan's profiles immediately pulsed red, already marked, but others, including staff Evelyn had never interacted with, now showed orange. "This," Evelyn said aloud, her voice full but calm, "is what accountability looks like in real time," Olivia whispered to her viewers. "She's just installed AI to keep bias out of every guest interaction. This isn't reform. It's a revolution." Sophia glanced at Evelyn, eyes shining. "You've secured Etoile's soul." Evelyn didn't smile. She only said, "Then we protect it." Etoile's rebirth ignited a media-fueled vision. The news broke before the night ended. Claire Donovan and Ryan Carter, both formally terminated, were named in official Harper Gourmet press releases by morning. Social media had already handed down its verdict, but the professional consequences were sharper. Their employment records, now flagged for misconduct and bias, made headlines across the industry. Olivia's viral live stream had been clipped into dozens of segments, each one documenting the collapse of arrogance under the weight of truth. One particularly damning moment, Claire smashing Evelyn's phone while yelling "counterfeit guest," was played repeatedly on CNN, MSNBC, and later in an NPR segment titled "Power, Prejudice, and the Cost of Silence." William Preston, despite scrambling to distance himself, found himself blacklisted not only from Harper Gourmet venues, but from every partner property in Evelyn's portfolio, which spanned across 6 countries. His private equity firm, already weakened by internal mismanagement, took a final blow when Evelyn's legal team submitted a full misconduct report to the firm's largest backers. Within 48 hours, the firm's stock plummeted. One investor called it a reckoning long overdue. Sophia stood by Evelyn through it all, quietly coordinating press, legal filings, and executive transitions. Natalie ensured every override system at Étoile, and soon other properties, was scrubbed of bias access points. Olivia, once an influencer, now found herself a media correspondent, covering the rise of what one outlet called the Harper Standard. And Evelyn? She never raised her voice, never called the press. She just stood her ground, and the world followed. But Evelyn knew exposure alone wasn't enough. Real change required infrastructure. So, days after the fallout, she launched the Unity Table Fund, a nonprofit built to support victims of discrimination in the hospitality industry, fund culinary education for marginalized communities, and advocate for institutional accountability across restaurants nationwide. She seeded it personally with $5 million. The fund's first initiative? A grant program that would pay for full culinary scholarships for 20 Black and brown students each year, along with guaranteed internships and legal support for those who face discrimination in hospitality spaces. "Unity is a practice," she said during her first statement. "We can't serve what we don't make space for." Sophia, reading the mission aloud at the boardroom press conference, added, "This is about prevention, not apology." Olivia streamed the announcement, her voice breaking mid-sentence. "This is what justice looks like when it grows roots." Within a week, the fund had raised another $2 million in outside donations. Evelyn's actions didn't just shake Étoile. They reset expectations across the fine dining world. Harper Gourmet issued new bias accountability protocols, many based on the internal AI tool she had deployed that night. Table Guard became standard in every Harper Gourmet venue and was soon licensed to other hospitality groups. Restaurant owners who once dismissed subtle discrimination as customer service friction now had measurable data proving otherwise. And when Evelyn returned to Étoile 6 months later, in November 2025, she didn't walk in alone. She brought with her 4 new interns from Unity Table, young, talented chefs from Harlem, Detroit, Atlanta, and Oakland. Each of them had once been told they'd never belong in a place like Étoile. Now, they were part of the new team. The dining room looked the same, polished, golden, elegant, but it felt different. Staff smiled with ease. Guests were seated with dignity. Not a single discrimination complaint had been filed in half a year. Evelyn sat at the table she had once been denied, this time greeted with reverence. No title needed. Her presence alone said everything. Justice uplifts us. Evelyn owned a restaurant, but what she really reclaimed was space. Space for fairness, for visibility, for others to rise. If you've ever been doubted, dismissed, or disrespected, share your voice below. Subscribe to join us in spreading stories that inspire, and support the Unity Table Fund. Because change doesn't start with shouting, it starts with standing.